Good afternoon. Prime Minister has some remarks, and then you'll hear from the Premier, and then we have exactly 15 minutes for questions.
Thank you very much. Earlier today, I visited Fort McMurray with Premier Notley and Indigenous leaders. It was the first time I'd visited since the wildfires passed through the city. It was a very powerful experience. Together, we had a chance to see both the incredible destruction that was the result of the fire and many of the homes and businesses that are still standing, thanks to the efforts, incredible efforts, of first responders. It's those first responders who I want to acknowledge first. These brave men and women have done and continue to do everything they can to protect and save Fort McMurray and surrounding communities. They've done it hour after hour, day after day. They've worked tirelessly to save their neighbors' homes, sometimes tragically, while their own homes were being lost. These first responders are heroes in every sense of the word, and they have earned our thanks. I also want to thank Premier Notley for the leadership she has shown. She and her team have done an excellent job of keeping us informed about the situation on the ground, and I want to thank her for being such a strong voice for Albertans and such a capable partner during this crisis. To the many Albertans who opened their homes to those fleeing the wildfire, thank you for showing all of us what it truly means to be a good neighbor. To those who are working and volunteering in emergency shelters, providing comfort and a continued sense of community to displaced residents, thank you for your kindness and your ongoing hard work. To all the provinces, territories, cities, and towns that have sent their own first responders to northern Alberta to help fight the fire, thank you for sharing your bravest citizens in this time of need. To First Nations, who have provided leadership in a number of ways, by opening up their communities and homes to evacuees, by supporting the transportation of evacuees, or by making donations, and to the First Nation and Métis volunteer firefighting crews who are part of the effort to suppress the fire, thank you. And finally, to the people of Canada, thank you for your generosity. In just 11 days, $86 million has been donated to the Canadian Red Cross to help the people of Fort McMurray. With our government matching individual donations, that figure will rise much higher. Merci à tous les Canadiens. Merci pour votre générosité. En seulement 11 jours, 86 millions de dollars ont été donnés à la Croix-Rouge canadienne pour aider les gens de Fort McMurray. Si on ajoute les fonds que notre gouvernement versera suite à son engagement de doubler les dons individuels, ce chiffre augmentera de façon considérable. Of course, these funds can never replace all that has been lost, but with these gifts, you have shown that you care deeply about your fellow Canadians, that you grieve alongside them, that you will be there for them not just now when the need is most acute, but also in the weeks, in the months, and in the years to come. That support will be essential as Fort McMurray begins to recover and rebuild from this tragedy. As of right now, we don't know how long that will take. We don't know exactly what kinds of resources will be needed, though we now have a much better sense of the scope of the devastation. The fire destroyed approximately 2,400 structures and damaged over 500 more. The important work of figuring out when and where and how we can start to rebuild has only just begun. Yesterday, the government's ad hoc committee on Northern Alberta wildfires met for the first time to help address both the urgent and the long-term needs of Fort McMurray and other communities affected by the Northern Alberta wildfires. Ce travail s'ajoute aux efforts déjà entrepris par beaucoup d'autres. Cela inclut la GRC et les forces de l'armée canadienne qui ont aidé à évacuer 90 000 personnes, qui ont transporté des pompiers et de l'équipement, qui ont assuré la livraison de denrées comme la nourriture et de l'eau. Cela inclut aussi l'Agence de la santé publique du Canada et la Croix-Rouge canadienne, qui ont fourni des secours d'urgence et ont apporté un soutien essentiel aux personnes évacuées. Santé Canada et Affaires autochtones et du Nord Canada, qui ont aidé à répondre aux besoins des communautés des Premières Nations touchées par l'incendie. Sécurité publique Canada, qui a coordonné les efforts de secours au niveau fédéral, et beaucoup d'autres. To the people of Fort McMurray, know that even though things may look difficult and uncertain and at times perhaps almost hopeless, know that you are not alone. Canadians are standing with you. You can lean on us and you can count on us. Our government will do everything it can to get you back home safely just as soon as that's possible. I also want to share the news that effective this July, following royal assent to the budget, more people in Alberta, southern Saskatchewan, and in southern interior BC will be getting additional help from the federal government as we add them to the list of areas where residents will have access to extended employment insurance benefits. This brings to 15 the number of regions where extended benefits are available. Here, I need to thank the caucus members who have been such strong advocates for this expansion. Obviously, Edmonton's own Amarjeet Sohi and Randy Boissonneau in particular, but also Ralph Goodale in southern Saskatchewan and Steve Feuer in South Interior BC. Thank you for your hard work on behalf of the people of Edmonton, southern Saskatchewan and southern Interior BC. Je veux aussi annoncer qu'à partir de juillet, les gens qui habitent à Edmonton, dans le sud de la Saskatchewan et dans la partie sud-est de la Colombie-Britannique recevront une aide supplémentaire du gouvernement fédéral puisque nous ajoutons ces régions à la liste des endroits où les résidents auront accès aux prestations d'assurance-emploi prolongées. Maintenant, 15 régions à travers le pays pourront bénéficier de ces prestations prolongées. We said we would continue to monitor and assess the situation and act if need be. Edmonton, southern Saskatchewan, and southern interior BC now meet the criteria we established. Here in Edmonton, this extension would mean that unemployed workers can claim an extra 5 weeks of regular benefits in addition to what they are already entitled to, up to a maximum of 50 weeks. This extension will provide the temporary financial support unemployed workers need while they search for work. For long-tenured workers, the extension would provide up to 20 additional weeks of benefits in addition to what they're already entitled to, up to a maximum of 70 weeks. We're doing this because we've heard from the people in these regions, we understand their concerns, and we've looked at the numbers. They show that additional help is merited. Canada is a great country because we work hard and we take care of each other. Whether it's recovering from a disaster like a wildfire or helping our neighbors get back on their feet after a job loss, we lend our hand in tough times. It's who we are and it's what we do. And it's a pleasure and an honor for me to be here today, yet again here in Alberta, to tell Albertans that the federal government has your back, that Canadians will be there for you through these difficult times. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. So thank you very much. Prime Minister, welcome to Alberta and welcome to the Provincial Operations Centre. The emergency response professionals who work here have been instrumental in organizing the province's response to the wildfires in northern Alberta, the support we're providing to evacuees, and planning for recovery and re-entry. Their expertise and their selfless dedication to fighting the fires and to the well-being of evacuees reminds us all of the tremendous value of our public service. And I know you join me and all Canadians in offering our sincere gratitude for their continued efforts. Prime Minister, you've had a chance to see firsthand the destruction of the wildfires visited on Fort McMurray and neighboring communities. As we've discussed, it is truly heartbreaking. But in this crisis, we've seen once again the extraordinary resilience of Albertans. We've also witnessed that profound spirit of giving and support that defines what it means to be an Albertan and a Canadian. We look out for one another, and when our fellow citizens are in need of help, as the Prime Minister has said, we have each other's backs. So let me also take a moment to thank all Canadians in every part of this country for their outpouring of support for the people of Fort McMurray. Your help, your donations, and your prayers are profoundly meaningful to us all in this very, very difficult time, and we will never forget them. Now, of course, the recovery work has only just begun. The governments of Alberta and Canada are working closely together to coordinate recovery work, to provide joint support to the Red Cross, and to partner on disaster response and recovery now and in the future. Our shared aim is to help Fort McMurray and other affected communities get back on their feet. This is the work of years, not weeks or months, but we will be there every step of the way. The Wildfire Recovery Task Force is meeting daily to plan re-entry into Fort McMurray and affected communities. The Regional Municipality of Wood Buffalo is working with the province on this effort. The recovery of the municipality will occur in phases. The primary focus right now is ensuring safety and stabilizing the community. As you probably have heard us say before, the 5 conditions that need to be met to ensure safe re-entry include, of course, that the wildfire is no longer an imminent threat to the community, that critical infrastructure is repaired to provide basic levels of service, that hazardous areas are secure, that local government is reestablished, and that essential services such as fire, water and wastewater, EMS, police, healthcare, and food are restored to at least a basic level. Officials on this issue will be reaching out today. They will have started reaching out, in fact, today, to community members in particular who offer services such as grocery stores, gas stations, and pharmacies to have them come back home to start reestablishing these services. I know that it's a very trying time, and I want to express our gratitude for the patience of the residents of Fort McMurray. They've been heroes themselves in this disaster to this point. Step by step, I know that we will recover and we will emerge stronger than ever before. I am very confident of that. Albertans have always shown that when we're faced with challenges, we come together, and this is true in Fort McMurray. I also, of course, want to thank our Prime Minister and the federal government for his support and his government's tremendous support during these difficult days. When Alberta asked for the assistance of the Canadian Armed Forces in the early days of the emergency response, it was provided swiftly, abundantly, and with no questions asked. And for that, you have our great thanks. Now, as Canadians know, before these fires started, the people of Fort McMurray and all Alberta were confronting the economic consequences of the collapse in oil prices. The fall in energy prices has resulted, as you know, in tens of thousands of layoffs throughout the province. For many families, this continues to be an additionally scary time, and Albertans across the province are worried about their jobs and their futures. So, Prime Minister, we've had the opportunity to discuss the impact of the downturn in oil prices in Alberta and throughout Canada. I want to acknowledge the very sincere interest that you and your cabinet have demonstrated in helping Alberta meet the challenges ahead. A few weeks ago, at your invitation, I spoke to your government about how we can make progress together on important issues like market access, climate change, and diversifying Alberta's economy. And of course, we also spoke about the need to extend employment insurance to unemployed Albertans in Edmonton. When energy prices were very high, very few Albertans qualified for benefits because unemployment here was lower and earnings were higher than in other parts of the country. But given the oil price shock, we knew that these rules needed to change. And as I said at the time, your government deserves credit for extending benefits for many Albertans for up to 20 weeks. It was an important step in the right direction, but as we discussed then, a little bit more needed to be done. So today, in coming to Alberta to show your support to the people of Fort McMurray and to extend EI benefits to Edmontonians and the people who live in the surrounding communities, your government is making an important contribution to our province's economic recovery. And let me just say, another important contribution to our province's economic recovery. As I've said before, my kids really hate it when I nag at them, so I personally want to thank the Prime Minister for putting up with that and then, in fact, responding as thoughtfully and as fully as his government has. This decision to extend EI benefits underscores the commitments that we owe to each other as citizens of this great country. Because when we stick together, when we have each other's backs, And when we work together as citizens for our collective well-being and future, we are all stronger and more secure. So thank you very much.
We now have 15 minutes for questions.
Prime Minister, from what I understand
can
of
I ask you
federal
about these
disaster
AI changes?
assistance, sometimes it can take time for federal disaster assistance to kick in. You had a first-hand look of the devastation today. Is there a plan for your government to fast-track that assistance, and not just military assets and that sort of thing, but actual cash?
One of the things that we put into the Minister of Public Safety's mandate letter back in November when we appointed Ralph Goodale to be Minister of Public Safety and Security is a review of how the federal government responds to disasters, both in the short term but also the recovery efforts. And that is ongoing, but certainly I've had direct conversations with Premier Notley about federal disaster assistance. And what I have continually emphasized is this federal government will be a strong and current partner. We will support, we will make sure that we are rebuilding together, and we will make sure that that money flows as is responsible and in a more rapid fashion than the previous government was likely to do. This is something that Canadians expect from their federal government, and like I say, this federal government has Alberta's back.
When will that review be completed?
That's an ongoing review. Obviously, there's many different pieces of it, but the review is somewhat concurrent with the work that we're doing with the government of Alberta to ensure that we're there to support in the ways that the government needs and with the measures that the government needs to have.
Was the decision to change EI or to extend the EI changes to Edmonton made based on the new data, or was it made based on the need of evacuees because of the fire?
The decision was based on new data. Obviously, the fire is something that is tragic, and if indeed offering more support to Edmonton and the areas around it will help people who have left Fort McMurray to return to Edmonton and are out of work, then that's a good thing. But we are a government focused on evidence-based policy, and the fact is that the job numbers demonstrated that Edmonton and the two other regions I highlighted now qualify for that. It's important to say, however, but this was a program that we put in place as one of a whole suite of changes we made to EI. 7 of the 8 changes, improvements we made to EI already applied to Edmonton and indeed every area across the country. This extra help, which was a direct response to the oil price shock that had ripples right across the country, was a one-time program that we have now added those three areas to.
Are you committing any money other than the Red Cross?
Avec l'économie de la région de Fort McMurray qui est affectée en raison des feux, est-ce que vous pensez que ça augmente la nécessité pour des nouveaux pipelines, construire de nouvelles infrastructures comme ça?
J'ai toujours dit que pour l'économie de l'Alberta, mais pour l'économie canadienne, c'est important d'amener nos ressources vers les marchés. Au 21e siècle, d'amener nos ressources vers les marchés veut dire les faire de façon responsable, de façon consciencieuse, de façon objectivement sécure, de travailler en partenariat avec les communautés autochtones aussi, mais de le faire de façon responsable veut dire d'élaborer un système de confiance publique qui n'était pas là avec le gouvernement précédent. Alors nous travaillons avec le gouvernement de l'Alberta, avec les partenaires, mais aussi avec les gens préoccupés à travers le pays pour démontrer que nous pouvons exporter nos ressources de façon responsable et c'est avec ce regard-là qu'on se penche sur les différents projets d'oléoduc.
Est-ce que vous pensez qu'avec les événements des derniers jours, des dernières semaines, ça augmente la nécessité, ça pourrait aider la région de Fort McMurray?
Bien, c'est certain que le besoin est là. On a besoin de rendre nos ressources vers les marchés internationaux. Ça n'a pas changé. Mais il y a un élément où les gens comprennent à quel point l'Alberta est en train de vivre des moments difficiles. L'Alberta qui a appuyé de façon significative l'économie canadienne à travers le pays pendant une bonne décennie où les choses allaient bien. Maintenant que ça va mal pour les familles en Alberta, le Canada en entier se penche sur des façons de pouvoir créer de la croissance économique tout en protégeant l'environnement. Et c'est ce sur quoi la première ministre Notley, moi-même et bien des partenaires à travers le pays sommes en train de travailler maintenant.
Let's go to, guys, let's just go to Brianna and then we'll go to Otiana and keep going down the line if you guys have questions.
Earlier this morning, you said that there were situations and particularities in this fire that gave us pause for reflection on how to move forward. Now that you've talked to emergency officials, what is that going to look like? What changes need to be made to prevent this from happening again?
Well, indeed, one of the things that was highlighted is that aspen trees usually work as a bit of a fire block, and firefighters know that aspens are helpful. Unfortunately, the time of this fire and the nature of the winter that we had here meant that aspens were burning and were not slowing down the fire. And there is, in any fire like this, things that the experts will learn about how to better prepare for next time. But we've already had conversations about the fact that there is going to be a necessity for mitigation strategies in the future. And as I said during the election campaign, we've put aside $20 billion over 10 years for green infrastructure, which would include disaster mitigation strategies. We talked a lot about flood mitigation around Calgary and the infrastructure needs around that. But there's also going to be significant needs for investment in making sure we're keeping our northern communities safe from forest fires.
Are you committing any additional funds besides the matching from the Red Cross to rebuilding Fort McMurray at this point?
We have committed that the federal government will be there for the communities of Fort McMurray and the municipality of Wood Buffalo. We will be there to partner with the provinces on the needs going forward. Yes, there will be significant federal monies invested in that community as we rebuild, but we're just beginning to understand the scale and the scope of the problem and establishing in partnership a path forward. But the federal government will have Albertans back in the coming months and years.
Amount?
So may I ask one question?
You had a question. You were very patient.
Thank you. Earlier today, you said that you don't think Canadians fully understand the scope of the fire. And I know you mentioned that they have donated $86 million. So the people that have donated that might say, we do get it. And so I just was wondering if you could elaborate on those comments.
Actually, what I said was that I don't think people understand that this fire was that it was the efforts of the firefighters that prevented us from losing 85% of the municipality. The fact is, people understand there was a massive wildfire around Fort McMurray, and when they see that it turns out, less houses were burnt and less damage was done than before, they might have said, oh, it was just the images of the fire that seemed like much. I have spoken with the first responders, the firefighters, who detailed just how many interventions were made at various points, strategic moments, that ended up saving neighborhoods and indeed large portions of the community. And that's the story that Canadians don't yet understand. They know there was a terrible fire, and the generosity of Canadians is exceptional, as it always is. And the strength and resilience of Albertans was exceptional, as it always is. But to highlight specifically just the heroes and what was done to protect this community with incredibly long, grueling, dangerous hours of work by what was at the beginning a very limited number of firefighters and first responders is a story that I know Canadians are going to be very, very happy to learn about in the coming days and weeks as those stories start to become more fully known.
Prime Minister, you had the opportunity, you spoke with first responders, you toured the areas around Fort McMurray itself, both the damaged and the ones that survived the damages because of the wonderful work of the firefighters. Have you spoken to evacuees, and if so, what's the plan for that, and what do you want to tell them?
I'm on my way to speak with evacuees as soon as we leave here. I'm going to tell them that we will be there for them in the short term to keep them safe and to help them return to their homes as soon as is possible. I'm going to be there to tell them that I will help them. The federal government will be there to help them with the cleanup and the immediate aftermath as they return home. I am there to tell them that we will be there in the months and indeed in the years to come as we rebuild Fort McMurray and restore this thriving community to what it needs to be. I will simply be there to tell them that all Canadians are with the community in Fort McMurray, with Albertans, with any Canadians facing disasters across this country. We're a country that is there for each other, and we will continue to be.
Is there anything specific that stuck out to you from what you saw today?
When I first got a chance to fly over the community, the first thing you notice is the smoke, is the haze, is the smell in the air that even from the airport, which was untouched, you can tell that the scale and the scope of what just happened. And then as you fly over initially, you notice the blackened forest that surrounds Fort McMurray. Every section of the boreal forest around it is scarred with black stripes or entire swaths of burned out trees and hillsides. Great leaps that the fire must have made across the river that lead you to imagine what it must have looked like as it was burning at its peak. And the idea that there were firefighters rushing towards that blaze as the entire world must have seemed on fire is amazing. And then you notice a downtown core that, other than being oddly deserted and immobile, is largely untouched. Then you notice neighborhoods that stand and with discarded children's stores on the children's toys on the front lawn that were vacated quickly but peacefully and perfectly fine. And then you go a little further and you see devastation. Streets, blocks, houses gone. Burnt out with nothing but an empty hole where the foundations were. And you think about the lives of everything but lives lost that are going to need to rebuild. And then as we went through, there was a moment where we saw on a sidewalk a little plastic child scooter just standing on the sidewalk. And the firefighters and first responders with us said, no, nobody's touched that since the evacuation. It just sits there in the middle of a sidewalk in a completely burnt out neighborhood. And it looks sad and it looks forlorn. But the one thing that I realized is, unlike so many images we see around the world, that little plastic scooter, whatever little boy or girl was using that just before the evacuation, they're safe. They're alive. They're being sheltered by friends or family or kind strangers where they are with their family right across the country. And we know that, yes, this was a terrible disaster to befall this community. But at the same time, there is hope, there is strength, there is a will, and there is the capacity to rebuild, to build a stronger future, to work together, to build greater opportunities for each other, the way Canadians always have.
So,
We have
Prime
time
Minister,
for one more question. We'll take
yeah,
this one from behind the camera.
Could you please say a few words about the Chinese oil industry situation in Fort McMurray? So are they safe? Are they good? And when they will resume the job?
Well, I was pleased to be up there with the Minister of Natural Resources, Jim Carr, along with and two other ministers who are all part of our ad hoc committee on Northern Alberta wildfires, so that we could indeed get a better sense of the challenges facing industry. Now, Obviously, one of the first in good news is that there were minimal impacts on industry directly. The firefighters and the way the fire actually burned meant that very little of industry is actually directly affected. However, the people who work there are now all evacuated, and their homes in many cases are challenged. The power lines and basic utilities and community supports from grocery stores to hospitals that are necessary for a functioning industry are not yet up to speed. But I have been assured, and I've been talking with Premier Notley about it, who has been working very, very closely on this particular issue, that the cooperation and the partnership with industry to make sure that things get up and rolling again as quickly as is safe and as responsible is being worked on, and we are optimistic that that's going to happen soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde.